Prime Minister Winston Phúc spoke with his Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe on Tuesday, during which they exchanged views on how to fight the COVID-19 pandemic in their respective countries. They also agreed to work together to overcome the pandemic. Prime Minister Abe spoke highly of Vietnam's effective COVID-19 response measures. He expressed his thanks to the government and peoples of Vietnam for providing medical supplies to Japan. The two sides will continue to care for and ensure the safety of each other's citizens during the COVID-19 outbreak. The two leaders have agreed to increase exchanges and cooperation in all areas and will encourage Japanese enterprises to increase investment in Vietnam. They also agreed to continue to have close cooperation at regional and international forums. Prime Minister Abe highly values Vietnam's role as ASEAN Chair 2020 and a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for the 2021-2021 term. Vietnam on Tuesday recorded 28 new cases in Da Nang, Quang Nam, and Dong Nai provinces, and one case that was quarantined immediately after entering the country. The number of new cases that were discovered in Da Nang from July 25th until today is 222. It has also witnessed 2 COVID-19 deaths. Both were elderly and had chronic renal failure and had been treated for many years at the Department of Renal Medicines at Da Nang Hospital. As of 6 p.m. local time on Tuesday, Vietnam recorded a total of 670 cases of COVID-19 and 8 deaths. On Tuesday morning, Hoa Binh General Hospital announced that 4 patients who were quarantined immediately after entering Vietnam were recovering from COVID-19. So far, the number of patients that have recovered is 378. There's evidence that the recent COVID-19 pandemic started in Da Nang in early July, but there is insufficient evidence to confirm that the virus is spreading strongly among the community. This was the main topic of discussions at the meeting of the National Steering Committee for COVID-19 Prevention and Controls on the afternoon of August 4th. Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam chaired the meeting.
After analyzing data and tracing the origin of the second wave of COVID-19 in Da Nang, experts concluded that the first case of COVID-19 in Da Nang was on the 7th of July. Experts also affirmed that the first case appeared in Da Nang is an imported one.
There has been no evidence that the spreading in the community of this virus this time is fast. However, there is the risk of human-to-human transmission due to the loosening of the preventive measures.
The Ministry of Health continues to mobilize human resources to the hotspots of COVID-19 outbreaks, especially to the most vulnerable places such as the intensive care unit, kidney and cardiology departments, where many patients with serious underlying diseases are being treated. Quang Nam should be treated as a hotspot of COVID-19 outbreak like Da Nang because there has been a surge in the infected cases there. For example, a cluster of 7 people living in the same home.
From our data analyzing, we affirm that the second wave of COVID-19 in Da Nang is from imported cases. When we find out there are positive cases in one community, we implement quarantine method to that community. Why do we require all F1 to be quarantined in one place, not self-quarantine at home? Because the chance of cross-infection among family members is very high, so they cannot self-quarantine at home.
In the coming time, the Ministry of Health will take 50,000 antibody test samples in Da Nang and Quang Nam. At the meeting, Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam affirmed that the fight against COVID-19 will be long until the vaccine is found.
We have won every battle, every campaign, but yet we haven't won the final battle against the COVID-19. In the world, many countries have been facing the comeback of this virus. The second wave is very serious. It is a warning for all hospitals, localities and branches at all levels.
Regarding high school graduation exam, the health sector has sent telegrams to provinces and cities to ensure safety exams for all students on the exam day.
Amid the complicated situations of COVID-19 pandemic, the Da Nang People's Committee on Tuesday sent a dispatch to other localities to call for the support of voluntary health workers. Da Nang People's Committee expect leaders of provinces and cities to approve the policies and coordinate with Da Nang's Department of Health. To respond to Da Nang calls, Hai Phong will be sending 33 health workers, including 8 doctors and 25 nurses, to Da Nang and Quảng Nam. Hai Phong will be donating $215,000 and 200,000 marks to each locality. Leaders of Da Nang Hospital said the outbreak at Da Nang Hospital has basically been cleaned up. Patients with COVID-19 were transferred to another place for treatment. The hospital is now able to welcome patients for treatment as normal. According to experts from the Ministry of Health, in order to clean up the outbreaks of Da Nang Hospital and Hospital C, all infected cases were transferred to assigned medical centers for concentrated treatment. Since then, the disease control circle has been closed. In recent days, Da Nang Hospital has made an effort to prevent COVID-19 from spreading further. Many health workers have been isolated and transferred to another hospitals. The remaining 900 employees went on duty at the hospital day and night to care for and treat 280 patients and perform tests for nearly 600 samples per day. The hospital is no longer treating COVID-19 patients and can welcome other patients for treatment. At least 6 COVID-19 cases have been confirmed in Da Nang High-Tech Park and Industrial Zone. Thousands of people worked in this area, so it would be catastrophic if the disease weren't put under control. A number of preventive measures have been implemented already.
Setting up barriers in offices, wearing hats with face shields, and maintaining distance during work are some of the measures that were implemented by Daiwa Vietnam Limited Company after they were informed that there were cases in the industrial zone.
We are fully aware of the situation, so we are doing our best to ensure safety while maintaining our workflow. If things get worse, we can work in shifts.
After the first positive case was detected, the management board of Da Nang High-Tech Park and Industrial Zones immediately contact health experts and local authorities to carry out zoning, identify F1, F2, and ask businesses to temporarily delay production.
We've issued a lot of guidelines and documents to teach businesses about safety measures and encourage them to overcome this difficult time.
About 77,000 people work in the area, and so far, 12 businesses have been temporarily suspended.
Welcome back to VTV News. When COVID-19 hit Vietnam, many economists said that the Vietnamese economy would be seriously hurt because the inputs and outputs in the production value chain of the country are highly dependent on global factors. However, the figures of the past 7 months are still quite positive. Regarding the socio-economic situation, the General Statistics Office said that July was better than last month. The growth rate of investment capital implemented from the state budget reached the highest level between 2016 and 2020. During the first 7 months of 2020, the disbursement of public investment reached $8.6 billion, equivalent to 42.7% of the year's plan and up 27.2% over the same period last year. The export turnover of goods is estimated at nearly $146 billion, with a trade surplus of $6.5 billion. The average CPI in the last 7 months increased by 4.07% compared to the same period last year. The recent report of the World Bank showed that Vietnam's economy has a positive future and confirmed that economic growth will quickly recover as long as the country is in control of the pandemic.
Many international organizations highly value Vietnam's efforts in meeting its economic growth targets and believe that Vietnam's economy this year will continue to grow and recover to reach 6.7% next year. COVID-19's influence on the Vietnamese economy is also less severe because the country has been very proactive in dealing with the crisis.
Congratulate Vietnam for having been relatively successful in fighting the COVID pandemic. It had much more success than many other countries globally to keep the infection rate relatively low. However, the economy has suffered, and our latest projections say that towards the second semester of 2020, the economy will rebound to 2.8%, and if favorable conditions globally.
The government has implemented very effective policies to promote the disbursement of public investment, attract private investment and FDI capital, and stimulate consumption. This will, in turn, contribute to maintaining the growth of the economy and will give it more momentum. In fact, the measures to promote the disbursement of public investment were drastically implemented in order to create a spillover effect on the economy.
Promoting public investment will help Vietnam have more infrastructure for economic development, and as the result, we create more jobs for workers and businesses.
Businesses continue to invest, but they'll invest wisely, and they won't just chase anything for the sake of chasing to get into Vietnam anymore, I suspect. They'll be much more careful in what they're acquiring or looking to acquire. And they'll probably reassess the value proposition. Is it worth as much as it was before?
The government has been consistent in reaching the dual goal as it has ensured economic growth while effectively preventing the pandemic from spreading. The government is requiring the country to mobilize all resources to promptly handle the outbreak and at the same time consistently implement tasks and solutions to prevent and control the pandemic, especially in Da Nang.
Storm Sinlaku caused heavy rains in some parts of Hòa Bình province over the past 4 days. Rainfall was measured between 100 and 245 millimeters. Some roads in Mai Châu district, a construction project in Hòa Bình, and several reservoir projects have been damaged. One person in Tu Sơn Commune, Kim Boi district, died Sunday night after being swept away by floods. In Sơn La, there was a landslide on Highway 6 on Monday. More than 100 cubic meters of soil and rock had rolled down the road from the mountain, causing traffic congestion for hours. However, the landslide did not injure anyone or damage any property. Storm Sinlaku is continuing to cause heavy rains in many northern provinces. For the first time since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the act of aiding foreigners illegally entering the country was brought to trial in the People Courts of Quảng Ninh Province on Tuesday. The case has 6 defendants. On June 9th and June 10th, Vong A Sui and 5 other people smuggled 6 Chinese people into Vietnam in the border area of Bắc Sơn Commune, Mong Cái District, Quảng Ninh Province. The defendants received a penalty of 2 years to 6 years in prison. According to statistics of the Ministry of Public Security, since the beginning of the year, 504 Chinese people have illegally entered 27 provinces and cities across the country. So far, police have prosecuted 5 cases, including 19 Vietnamese and Chinese, for organizing illegal entry. Months have passed since the first case of COVID-19 was discovered in Vietnam. Since then, over 10,000 officials, bodyguards, and other official forces have been working tirelessly to stop illegal entries into Vietnam through small trails along the border. More to follow.
All border checkpoints remain on high alert to stop any potentially infected people. Officers and border guards are also cooperating with the local authorities and citizens to stop rings that illegally bring foreigners into the country.
Under the direction of the Lạng Sơn Provincial Border Command, Ba Sơn Border Guard has assigned officials and soldiers to set up checkpoints and to coordinate with the military and police of 3 communes to block illegal entries.
Blinded by money, some people still try to illegally bring people across the border. To effectively fight against this type of crime, the country needs the participation of the whole political system, army, and people.
We plan to carry out a comprehensive review of key areas, gather forces, and provide them with equipment. We are determined to effectively prevent illegal entries and access across the border.
Lạng Sơn province has directed local authorities, especially communes and villages near the border, to support the border guards with both material and human resources to fulfill this task.
Since the beginning of the year, the border guard has coordinated with domestic and foreign functional forces to detect, arrest, and quarantine over 30,000 illegal immigrants and over 280 foreigners entering the country illegally. These figures show that the risk of disease from the border will be very high if no efforts are made to prevent illegal entry across the border.
Despite the extreme difficulties caused by COVID-19, Vietnam's economy still maintains a positive outlook, and it's partly thanks to free trade agreements signed by Vietnam and its partners. Along with new opportunities from FTAs, digital transformation is also an effective way of helping businesses penetrate new markets.
Since the COVID-19 outbreak, many Vietnamese enterprises have been using e-commerce to support their import-export activities, which use both business-to-business and business-to-customer models. Thanks to digital transformation, Thạch Ban Group, one of the leading manufacturers in the building material industry in Vietnam, achieved good growth during the first 6 months of the year.
As many countries still haven't opened their borders, Vietnam's export activities are facing many difficulties. Since we switched to digital platforms, our company's sales grew by 81% in the first 6 months of this year.
Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, digital transformation can really help small and medium-sized enterprises find a more flexible business model while cutting costs and optimizing resources.
We've been using e-commerce platforms such as Alibaba and VN Export and many social networking sites to reach a much wider group of customers. State-owned e-commerce platform VN Export is the one that's most trusted by customers when it comes to digital transactions. Thanks to e-commerce platforms, we have favorable conditions to facilitate the trading activities of small and medium Vietnamese enterprises. Digital transformation has paved the way for them to better integrate into the global economy and develop sustainably.
Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry chairman also added that integrating digital technology into the entire process of import and export activities will be compulsory. Now that the EU-Vietnam Free Trade Agreement is in effect, Vietnamese businesses can take advantage of the agreement's opportunities to expand their import and export markets through e-commerce trading.
There are people who do charitable works because their family conditions allow it, while others do it because they have passion for it. But Lê Thị Anh Đào, a secondary school teacher from the remote district of Vĩnh Thuận in Kiên Giang province, has much different reasons. She does it because she sympathizes with the difficulties her poor student experience. This teacher has brought joy to her students on their first day of school.
Back when I was in school, my family was poor. My dream was to have a nice backpack, but it never came true. So my dream later became that I would be able to support other poor students so that they wouldn't have to go through what I'd been through.
This determination followed Miss Đào for decades, and as soon as she was capable, she immediately opened a Zero Dong shop. That is Đào second year of donating school supply to poor students. What first started as 200 presents, 1 year later, that number has risen to nearly 500. Friends and former students have even given Đào a helping hand. Each gift includes notebooks, pens, and a large leather bag worth nearly $15. For many, it may not be much, but for people in the remote communes of Vĩnh Thuận, starting a school year without these things can be a burden.
Even though it's a small gift, for them it's precious.
Đào work is very valuable. I think it is necessary to maintain it and call for more sponsors to support our poor students.
Đào doesn't want to stop at just donating school supplies to students. By opening the shop, Đào also hopes to spread the message of sharing.
Even though many students are not well off, they still contribute to the shop. It's precious. Money is important, but we have to know how to share.
Ms. Dao never expected to receive anything in return. Dao will continue this meaningful work so that her hometown students can have new backpacks just like she dreamt she could when she was their age.